Welcome! If you are interested in books, you came to the right place, because today I'm talking about all the books I read in 2025. It's 114 books, so it's gonna be a long talk. So strap in, we're gonna talk about classics, romance, fantasy, mystery, smut, body sweepers, M/M romances, and a lot more. Welcome, I'm Anaide, and this is my 2025 wrap-up. So, I started my year truly strong with one of the best fantasy series I have ever read. Ladies and gentlemen, The Lord of the Rings Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. And no, I'm not a crazy person. I didn't start with this. I just read the Lord of the Rings Fellowship last year, like 2024. And I'm not gonna talk about the plot because if you don't know the plot of Lotter, I don't know what to tell you. Go watch it, read it, I don't know, something. But I'm gonna tell you what I liked. I distinctly remember liking the division into one whole storyline, like you get the Aragorn and company story and then Frodo and Sam, all the chapters together, instead of being interspersed, one storyline with the other. And I was really angry about the movies versus book treatment of going to Helm's Deep. Like, why is everybody so mad in the movies? I don't get it. And I prefer the book, and this is easy 5 stars. It doesn't get much better than this. So, Ghostly Tales, spine-chilling stories of the Victorian age by multiple authors. So, there's this whole series of tales, and they usually pick a place like Japan, India, Northern Europe, etc., and they retell folk stories there. I usually don't like it because it feels kind of soulless. But this one was a collection of stories from famous authors like Doyle, Stevenson, Dickens, or Gaskell, and it was great. I live for the good old-fashioned England with haunted mansions, and the illustrations were top tier. So, 4 stars. Everyone This Christmas Has a Secret by Benjamin Stevenson. This is a novella murder mystery that is basically an advent calendar. I read it in January and in one go. It felt a bit overcombined and the main hero's girlfriend seemed to be too good for him. Like, really? I liked the first book in the series the best and it has been going downhill ever since. There should be 4th installment in 2026, so we'll see. But this was 3 stars. It's really hard to do a compelling story on a short format. Most authors don't do it really well. But yeah, we'll see. It was whatever. So, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. I have this box and it's really beautiful and my edition has these really nice illustrations. You'll see in the video a bit later. And, I love the story. It's the epic conclusion to Lotter. What else is there to say? And then my edition dropped about 150 pages of lore and linguistics. And I sat through them because that is the kind of person I am. But I did suffer. The main story was so good I still gave it 5 stars. But it's really not for me, the drawn out lore and linguistics. I know some people like it, some people enjoy it. I really don't. Maybe this is blasphemy to say this about Tolkien, but yeah, it was kind of boring. But I still loved it. The main story is really good, and I understand that the lore needs to be there for the story to work so well. So I appreciate it, but I'm not gonna read it again. I'm gonna read the Lotter trilogy, but I'm gonna skip the lore pages. Sorry. Moving on. Another Tolkien. This time around, it's Bilbo's Last Song, and it's like a Lotter epilogue in a poem form. And I'm not really one for poetry, but I gave this one 5 stars because it was really good. And I proceeded to call myself stupid for not reading Hobbit first, because I don't know, I just wanted to start with Lotter somehow, and you'll see later in the year that I did get around to read Hobbit. Number 6. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this is a historical fiction about the Riva family, and it jumps between the past, where the main focus are the Riva family parents. The dad is a musician, I believe, and the present, which is the 80s, and we follow the four Riva siblings. And you know from the beginning that there is gonna be a party, and it's gonna end in fire, but you don't know how and why, and that's basically what the book culminates in. And Reed's books are very readable and hard to put down, but in the end, I'm always left wanting a bit more, which is why I'm giving 4 stars. It was the same for The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I'm gonna proceed to read more of her books, I'm sure. I have Carrie Soto on my TBR also, but I don't know, there's just this little something missing for me. But I enjoyed it. 4 stars is a good rating. Number 7, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. This is the definition of cozy in a fantasy code. We follow a retired adventurer who is starting over and opening a coffee shop all alone in a city where nobody even knows what coffee is. You basically watch Liv build a business and acquire a bunch of employees who quickly turn into friends, and there is a romance too, which is really sweet. And I enjoyed myself. I'm a fiend for cozy and fantasy. This was easy 4 stars for me. And I'm excited for next installments. I didn't get around to them yet, but maybe this year. I believe this year is gonna be the year. So, at number 8, it's The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And we are not done with Tolkien yet. He's gonna reappear throughout the year. I think 2025, one of the main characteristics is a lot of Tolkien, actually. So, Hobbit. I had fun. You know, the first chapter of Hobbit is one of the greatest first chapters ever, and you cannot change my mind. But the middle portion was a bit slow, and I was kind of glad when Gandalf left, because when he is there is not much space for others. And I have another complaint, because there were too many dwarves for all of them to be relevant to the story. Like, what did Bofur and Bifur do? I especially liked the Mirkwood part, and the entire Lonely Mountain part had some great moments too, even though it could have been longer. Overall, I had high hopes from the first chapter, but I enjoyed a lot more in the end. Still, this is getting 5 stars, but it's probably Tolkien bias at this point. So, with number 9, I wanted to switch things up. So, coming up, Good Fucking Luck by Riley Hart. By this point, I was craving a good M/M romance, and unfortunately, I did not get it. The 2 main love interests in this didn't quite feel like real people. There was too much we made small talk phrases like "show me please," and one of the guys seemed to try super hard with compliments. And after the other went through public humiliation, it felt like pity. 3 stars, but I'm being generous. And I'm really sorry about this, because Riley Hart wrote one of my favorite comfort book ever, which is Playing Games. And yeah, this one just didn't click with me. At number 10, Unbecoming a Lady, The Forgotten Sluts and Shrews Who Shaped America by Therese O'Neill. And unfortunately, I don't remember much about this one. I sometimes read nonfiction as sort of a palate cleanser, and this one was about cool women. It was well written, which is not always the case with these, and I like the illustrations. I gave it 4 stars. Let's move on. So, book 11 brings us into February, and who is there to welcome us but the great J.R.R. Tolkien himself with Silmarillion. And I think this is the last Tolkien on my list. Well, kind of. You'll see. And this has strong mythology vibes, there are a lot of names and battles, and most of it is really sad. Overall, it is not as good as the Lotter series, and it can be a bit overwhelming at times. It drops a lot of cool lore though. I gave it 4 stars. Number 12, Homes of Kyoto, the first book by Mai Mochizuki, and this is a manga series about a girl named Aoi that starts working for an antique shop. Son of the owner has the nickname Holmes. He is correct at appraising items and solving mysteries. The series is mostly small mysteries that span a few chapters. There is a main villain that is sometimes involved, not always though. And we also have this will day, one day between Aoi and Holmes. I read a lot of these this year, and I'm still waiting for the romance to blossom. 4 stars for the first installment, and what I said about the first one is true about the second installment as well. It was light and refreshing because I was reading through quite a bit of heavier tomes at that point, and I also gave it 4 stars. At number 14, because Holmes of Kyoto 2 is number 13, is The Dead Cat Tales Assassins by P. J. Clarke. And this is a story about an undead assassin who is contracted to kill someone and she cannot bring herself to. Hilarity and a lot of bloody fight ensue. The author was able to craft a really complex story in a shorter format, which I really loved, and it was solid 4 stars in my book. I recommend checking this one out. So, you probably do remember the heavy tomes I was talking about? Yeah, this is one of them. And it's The Tale of Genji by Murasaki Shikibu. And we have a classic on our hands. What the hell was I doing with my life at the beginning of this year? This book is sometimes referred to as one of the oldest novels. And did I like it? I'm not sure. The beginning was painful and it was not easy to always know what was happening. Well, mostly Genji was pursuing a woman, she was horrified by it and tried to run, and then they probably banged, but it was not explicitly stated, so sometimes I was a bit slow to catch up. And this book can be horrible at times. Men are always forcing themselves on unsuspecting women and even forcing them to reply to their messages. I cannot even begin to count how many times women were called unfeeling and rude for not answering a horny guy who was a powerful figure. There were a few consensual relationships, mostly the marriages. I hated a lot of the relationship dynamics and I still do not understand a lot about the etiquette of that time, but I could not help but read on. It made me mad, but it was interesting. 3 stars. Number 16, Murder is Easy by Agatha Christie. What you should know is that I really like Christie. I am determined to read all of her books. And, I was already halfway done, and then I got this really beautiful Agatha Christie tracker, and I decided to reread basically all of her books, so I'm starting again. And these are my comfort reads. So, to the book. More palette cleansers are on their way to save the day from the big Genji debacle. And I was once again Hastings and not Poirot. There is no Poirot in this book. I didn't solve it, is what it means. I managed to figure out that there was something important about the bird, but yeah, Christie got me again. And despite my lack of capabilities to solve the case, I had a great time. And this was about a series of murders that weirdly looked like accidents, but there were just way too many of them. And yeah, I think I already said it, but 4 stars. It was pretty solid. So, number 17 and 18 is Holmes of Kyoto, volume 4, 3 and 4, yes, by Mai Mochizuki. And so I continued with Holmes. I gave both installments 4 stars. I liked some side characters. I wasn't keen on the Moriarty, aka the main villain. And I started to get the feeling that this romance will take a while. Little did I know, dear reader. But yeah, it's always a good time to read Holmes of Kyoto. So, at number 19, The Crime Book, Big Ideas Simply Explained edition by Shanna Hogan. And this is a non-fiction that covers over 100 crimes, from Jack the Ripper to more modern crimes. Some of the crimes chilled me to the bone, I'm not gonna lie. But this is not my first true crime book. I like the bite-sized format of the stories, but it doesn't give you that much depth though. So, 4 stars. Book number 20 marks the start of March, and it's The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangwu Mandana. This is a story about an adult witch, Mika, who is contracted to teach magic to 3 kids because they cannot control it and there is a risk of them being found out. Mika has to win over not only the kids but also their other caretakers, one of them being Jamie, the grumpy love interest. I read this for all the wrong reasons, mainly to fulfill a challenge prompt and because it was short, but I had such a great time. This was so cozy. I loved Mika and her relationship with everybody. The world was built well and the book never fell into over-explaining. It all felt so magical and whimsical. Yes, there was some drama, but it never felt like happy ending was in danger. Easy 5 stars. I really love this one. Number 21. Hercule Poirot's Silent Night by Sophie Hannah. There is a Poirot without Christie. How is that possible? Well, Sophie Hannah has the authorization to write Poirot novels from the Agatha Christie estate. How cool is that? I got the 5th installment as a gift for Christmas, and it wasn't half bad. I felt like some stuff happened off screen to create the mystery, and that is not quite fair, is it? And I'm also not quite sure about the sidekick Inspector Catchpool. I'm a big fan of Christie, so I will eventually get around to these books as well. This time it was 3 stars, but I'm not deterred. I read Christie's books that received the same or in one installments even worse ratings from me, so, it can get much better. I'm looking forward to it. Number 22. The 5. The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper by Hallie Rubenhold. This was simply brilliant. Beautiful and poignant. I never gave much thought to the victims of Jack the Ripper, and now I know I should have. The author clearly did a lot of research to bring the stories of women who were much more than the often baseless accusations of sex work made them seem. They were vulnerable, and that was the reason they died. I share the author's disdain for sensationalizing the murders and making the kill into some sort of a legend. The author wanted to give voice to the victims and to restore their dignity, and I think she did a splendid job. 5 stars without a doubt. If you should read one of the books I'm talking about, read this one. It's really, really great. Number 23, The Diary of Lady Murasaki by Murasaki Shikibu. I read Genji, so this diary was a natural next step. This is an interesting snippet of an important event and a quick glance into the life of Murasaki Shikibu, the author of Prince Genji. I am not a scholar, so a lot of things went over my head. There are so many people, and who is who again? However, between all these descriptions, there are personal insights into what Murasaki felt, and those are truly fascinating, even for someone who has barely any understanding of the historical context. I can clearly see the talent she displayed when writing Prince Genji. 3 stars. Number 24, Because of Miss Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. Time for some romance. I found Julia Quinn when I was a teenager, and so I'm familiar with the Bridgerton series, but my friend recommended this book specifically. This is sort of a prequel, kind of. Billy is a Bridgerton and her brother is Edmund, who is father of all the newer Bridgertons. So, we have Billy, who is both a menace and a national treasure. She's really independent, and she is friends with the Rokesby family. There are tons of guys, she likes all of them except for the oldest, George, who is our main love interest. He's the love interest. I don't know why I said main. And as they spend more time together, they slowly learn they have a lot in common. First part of the book was easy 5 stars. It was charming, it was the best. And then they leave for London, and it was like pulling teeth. I settled on 4 stars because of how good the first half was, and because the guy wasn't an oaf. I'm gonna talk about it later with other books from this series, but yeah, George was okay. Number 25, The Bastard and the Heir by Eden Finlay and Saxon James. This is contemporary M/M about 2 men. One is an heir to a huge fortune, and the other is an illegitimate child. The heir brings the other one in to work in the company, and there is a lot of sexual tension. And no, they are not truly brothers. I gave it 5 stars, even though there isn't that much personality to these guys. I just vibe with the forbidden relationship and the rom-com-esque ending. I don't know, looking back, maybe the 5 stars was a bit of a stretch, but I don't know. That's how I felt at the time. 26. Toadwords and Other Stories by T. Kingfisher. These are fairy tale retellings by T. Kingfisher, and I really like her style. Really interesting takes in some of these. I gave it 4 stars because I really vibe with her. I read quite a bit of her books, and I'm always in for a good time. 27. The Girl with the Make-Believe Husband by Julia Quinn. This is the next Rokesby book. The first one was George, the eldest, and this is about Edmund. He's the second eldest. And this time we have the premises Edmund lost his memories, and there is this girl, and she's pretending to be his wife because she's looking for her brother, and nobody wants to help her. And Edmund and her brother were together in the war, like not colleagues, like soldiers. And this book made me realize that I really dislike a lot of Quinn's conflicts. The characters, more often than not it's the men, behave appallingly, and then it all gets erased by a love confession. No, no, and no. 3 stars, and this is just because the start of the romance was super cute. Julia Quinn is so good at starting and building the romance, and then she kills it by making the characters behave like assholes. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents. So, number 28 up to 31 is 4 books. I'm calling it the Miss Mifford series. You can see the titles on screen. It's by Claudia Stone. And we have 4 Mifford sisters, 4 murders to solve, and 4 love interests to introduce. All these books are a delightful mix between a murder mystery and a romance packed nicely in a Regency era setting. These books are short and filled with humor that lightens the whole affair. I think the 4th book has my favorite moment. There is this proposal that is simply hilarious. I gave each book 4 stars, and like the author is super nice because I reviewed these on Goodreads and she reached out and she was like super nice. And I love those. They are really short, but they are so entertaining. 32. The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich by Dea Muniz. This is a graphic novel set in a fantasy world of nobility named after cheese. We have a princess and her love interest, Count Camembert, who is really Lady Camembert. It was refreshing, and everybody, including side characters, had a lot of personality, which is not always the case with graphic novels. And when you add the gorgeous art, you get 4 stars. Number 33. The Revenge Agenda by Saxon James. Another M/M, contemporary setting. This one was whatever. The premise is that fiancé who gets cheated on and the man who was unknowingly the cheating partner get together to make their ex jealous. They of course develop real feelings for each other and it works out in the end. I am once again appalled by the lack of personality in one of the men, to be fair. The other had a bit too much of it. Do these people have like hobbies, friends? I strongly believe there is more to life than work. We need some normal dates and getting to know each other. And no, sex doesn't count. 3 stars. So, off to April we go. Number 34. The Greatest Nobodies of History, Minor Characters from Major Moments by Adrian Bliss. These are short stories about memorable historical figures or events from a strange cast of characters, like the Devonshire Ferret, Emu in the Emu Wars, Oak, and so on and so forth. It is sometimes humorous and sometimes serious look at history. I would read some of these if they were a full-length novel. I gave it 4 stars because anytime you have a short stories collection, it's always there are some you will love and there are some you will be like, oh, these just aren't for me. But there were more I liked, so 4 stars it is. Number 35. The Soldier's Scoundrel by Cat Sebastian. This was a reread and I put 1 more star into the mix, so 5 star it is. This is M/M historical romance, and I keep on complaining the men in the romances I read have no personality. Here, this couldn't be further from the truth. It doesn't feel like the 2 MCs are falling in love because the author forced them to. It's a natural conclusion of 2 different people learning to understand each other. What we are dealing with here is a guy with kind of a shady business and a young lord determined to get in his way, and it's mixed with mystery of missing letters. I love this book and I'm so happy to own this in physical form. 36. The Leper of St. Giles, Brother Catfell, Chronicles 5, Alice Peters. I am butchering these names, I know it, or I don't know. Just forgive me, please. This is also a comfort series of sorts. There is this Benedictine monk who served in the Holy Wars and has formidable knowledge of herbs and medicine, and he's solving crimes happening in his vicinity. He is just, and he's often the only person standing by people who are basically 1 bad move from the chopping block. This time, however, I wanted more of our monk detective. He was barely there. Combine it with the fact I got the murderer from the get-go, and you can only get 3 stars. Number 37, Lark's Release by Lynn Messina. Another series I am in pretty deep. There's this woman that solves mysteries with a duke. This isn't her story. Or I guess it kind of is. The duke in question from the Beatrice Hyde Clare series has an illegitimate sister Verity. Verity wears a ton of disguises and makes her living as a writer with two personas, one for serious investigative journalism and one for gossip. She is delightful, and I can't get enough of her, her love interest, and her two best friends. Cozy mysteries make my life better. 4 stars. 38. Why didn't they ask Evans? Agatha Christie. Remember when like 15 books ago I was talking about Agatha Christie having some books I didn't quite enjoy? Well, here is one of them. I am not a fan of books that are more spy-oriented, and this one didn't really grab me. I watched Hugh Laurie's adaptation before reading it, which is something I never do. I always read the books first. I'm so glad I did it, because the adaptation was better and it didn't feel as over-combined as this. 3 stars because Christie is the queen of crime, but I was not satisfied with this one. Number 39, Prince and Assassin by Tavia Lark. Another BL, another recommendation from my best friend. I love this one. It's set in a fantasy realm where this assassin falls in love with the prince he is supposed to kill. There are also huge talking cats. I like the relationship and the way the fallout from the big secret was handled. 5 stars because why not? Number 40 is Holmes of Kyoto 5 by Mai Mochizuki, and it's still solid mysteries and still no romance in sight. 4 stars. The month of May is upon us. Number 31, The Secret Lives of Country Gentlemen, and number 42, If He Had His Legs, We'd Be in So Much Trouble, both by K.J. Charles. This is a historical fiction romance about a successful smuggler and a newly titled country gentleman. Both guys are ex-lovers, and early on they get into a conflict that is understandable from both sides. They also both have an abundance of personality. I love me some botanical exploration fueled by daddy issues and the oldest sibling responsibility complex. Easy 5 stars. The other book is a short bonus. It is listed on Goodreads as a book, so I'm counting it. 3 stars to the bonus. It's just too short to do much. 43. Games People Play by Eric Berne. Non-fiction about game theory and some games people play. It was an okay read, but not memorable. 3 stars. Number 44. Murder in the Cathedral by T.S. Eliot. I read this to fulfill a prompt, and it felt like there was a ton of context missing. It was dramatization of murder of Thomas Becket, I guess, but it didn't do much for me. 3 stars. 45. The Lake Poets, Samuel Taylor Coleridge and William Wordsworth. Every once in a while, I venture out of my comfort zone to seek out a bit of poetry, and more often than not, I am left with this feeling that sure was okay. Some of these poems were a bit weird, this whole ship of dead business especially, and other poems were forgettable. 3 stars that are more me not being that into poetry, I guess. So, the month of June, and with him number 46, Holmes of Kyoto 6 by Mai Mochizuki. I gave this Holmes specifically 5 stars because I was entertained and I finally started appreciating the whole evil nemesis thing we got going on. Yeah, it was one of the best installments. Number 47, The River Has Roots by Amal El Mohtar. This is a fantasy novel that reminds me of folk tales with its vibes. This author has a way with words. I cannot get enough of the whimsy and beauty of their prose. They string words together in an unexpected fashion. This book relies heavily on different meanings of language, and it's engaging from start to finish. 4 stars. Number 48, 49, and 50 is The Cavern of Fear, The Isle of Illusion, and The Shadowlands by Emily Roda. So, once upon a time, my mom bought me the first Deltora series where Leaf and his 2 companions managed to collect 8 magical stones for this belt and take back control of their own kingdom. It's not all sunshine and rainbows though. We got some folks that were dragged to the Shadowland. To help them, we need this magical pipe. It has 3 parts and there are 3 installments, and I liked that. I was a bit underwhelmed though, because despite having 12 books to fight monsters, our main heroes are still getting overwhelmed. And the ending was a bit rushed. The first book got 4 stars, I liked the premise, the second and third got 3 stars. So, number 51, 52, 53, 54 is another Del Toro series. It's the third one. It's Dragon's Nest, Shadow Gate, Isle of Death, and The Sister of the South. And I think I should give a little more context of how I got into Del Toro. It's middle grade, by the way. My mom bought me the last book of the last series, and I never read it because I didn't have the rest of the series, and that's the kind of person I am. I am a completionist. I wouldn't read it before knowing what came before. So much later she got me the first series, and I read that many times, but I didn't have the second and the third series. And this year I finally decided to see for myself what was next. So, we have our kingdom alright, but the land seems kind of poisoned. To undo that, we need to destroy these poison seeds with the help of dragons. The best side character is Doran the Dragon Lover, who was an adventurer years ago, and he is our spiritual guide, and I love that, because we have this book of his. It's 4 stars for all the books. It was a really nice change of pace. So, the last book in the month of June is number 55, Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man by Jessie Q. Sutanto. I liked the first time an old Asian lady sticked her nose into murder and the lives of all suspects. This time around, it just didn't have the same magic in it. Points for tackling a real issue, minus points for being a bit predictable. 3 stars. So, the summer was in full swing, the month was July, and I was still not done with Del Toro. This time, it's Secrets of Del Toro by Emily Roda, and it's a travel guide to Del Toro from my favorite explorer, Doran the Dragon Lover. If you ever read Del Toro's books, you will love him also. He's so great. And the book is referenced in the main series, and it contains information about places you as the reader saw and already experienced. I gave it 4 stars because I liked it. So, book 57 is The Hobbits of Tolkien by David Day. I told you we were not done with Tolkien quite yet. So, this is a series analyzing Tolkien's world, and it's hard to actually rate. The information on its own is interesting, but the writing style is unnatural and at times repetitive. The books have beautiful bindings and illustrations though. I gave it 3 stars, but I'm still not sure what to actually think about these. Did I even like them, or were they just not long enough to truly annoy me? I don't know, it just feels disappointing because they have Tolkien, which is such a rich source of material, and they kind of fumble with it. 58. Tales of Del Toro by Emily Roda. You know, we are not done with Del Toro yet, but soon we will be. This is a prequel about how the legendary King Edin got his really cool belt with all the gems. I was talking about series 1 of Del Toro being about getting these gems. This is how the belt came to be. It was really cool, and I gave it 4 stars because it brought something new. Number 59 is the last Del Toro book on this list, and it's the Del Toro Book of Monsters by Emily Roda. It's an illustrated book that's sort of like an atlas or an encyclopedia of monsters. There is nothing new if you read the series, and that's why I gave it 3 stars. Number 60 is Human Relations, a game for improving personal adjustment by Lauren Ford. It's a self-improvement book. I'm reading these to be a better human being with questionable outcome. I don't remember much about this one, and I gave it 3 stars. Number 61 is Everything is Tuberculosis, The History and Persistence of Our Deadliest Infection by John Green. I know John Green wrote some YA books I read a really long time ago. In this book, he shines as a non-fiction author, getting me interested in tuberculosis. I really thought it wasn't a thing anymore before reading this book. A solid read, informative without being overwhelming or boring. 4 stars. Number 62, The Heroes of Tolkien by David Day. Well, what I said about the Hobbits of Tolkien applies. This is not quite great summary of Tolkien's ideas. I already bought the whole series though, so what I was supposed to do? Not read it? At least they are quick. And I really like the illustrations. 3 stars. Number 63. How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristin Perrin. This is a murder mystery. We are switching between the 1960s and the present. In the present, there is this young woman that is summoned by her reclusive aunt, and by the time she arrives, the aunt is dead. And this aunt was actually obsessed by the idea she would get murdered because it was foretold to her when she was young. And she did actually get murdered, so she wasn't wrong. And she was gathering clues for years. So, our protagonist is now left with a lot of clues and a will that stipulates gains after the murder is solved. Fascinating stuff, and I actually like the reveal and the final piece in the puzzle that actually made it all made sense. And this is supposed to be a series. For now, I'm going with 4 stars because there is room for improvement, but sign me up. Number 64. The Art of Social Intelligence plus Human Relationships 2 in 1. Improve your mindset with the habits of highly effective people and improve your people skills by John Ward. The information in this self-improvement book is quite useful, but there are so many typos and weird sentences. It is in dire need of good editing. 2 stars, and I'm being generous. Well, the month of August is here with number 65. Emotions Explained with Buff Dudes. Altered Comics by Andrew Ciaston. Yeah, I'm so bad with these names. This was a funny collection of episodic comics about emotions. 4 stars. Number 66. The Ring Legends of Tolkien by David Day. This was the longest one of the bunch. It recounts a lot of possible inspiration sources Tolkien used for creating his own ring. We know Tolkien was really into mythology. I actually learned something this time. It was a bit long though. 3 stars. Number 67. Full Service by Cora Rose, Franklin New Book 5. No, I didn't randomly start a book 5. A long time ago, I think it was a year ago actually, I read the first 4 books in a series of College M/M romances, and I got so annoyed I stopped. The series is by different authors, and unfortunately they are not putting out their best. At least I hope so. Back when Franklin New 1 released, I found one of my favorite comfort books ever, and I have been hoping for a repeat ever since. Safe to say, it didn't happen. Here we have a professor and his teaching assistant who also works as a stripper falling in love, or maybe in lust. It wasn't quite bad. Forbidden Fruit has its appeal, but I couldn't get over the 2 of them being so dumb about hiding the relationship. 3 stars. 68. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This book found me at a strange time, and it worked out. We have Nora, who commits suicide only to find herself in a magical library that lets her live different lives based on life paths she could have chosen. At first, I didn't like the MC, but she grew on me. This strange book made me think about life, self-talk, and struggles in different light, and it actually helped me come to terms with some of my life decisions. 5 stars without a doubt. Read it if you are in a strange mood, or if you are interested in it. I don't know. Do what you want. Well, speaking of strange books, number 69, How to Dodge a Cannonball by Dennard Dale. This is historical fiction that follows Anders, a white teenager who somehow finds himself in the Civil War on the side of the Union in the regiment of black soldiers. This book was strange, and a lot of it probably went over my head. I am a white European woman. It's as far as you can get from the topic of this book. However, the dark humor of this book and Andras and his unique style of thinking grew on me. 4 stars. Number 70. Partners in Crime by Agatha Christie. This is a collection of short stories centered around Tommy and Tuppence, one of Christie's lesser-known pair of detectives. These two ran a detective agency because the police wants them to be here. Some bad guys are supposed to come, and they are sort of like undercover agents. And meanwhile, they're waiting, they're solving mysteries. And as I said, it's a collection of short stories. The mysteries vary both in tone and quality. I liked some, and some were just okay. Overall, the book gets 3 stars. Number 71. The Service Berry. Abundance and Reciprocity in the Unnatural World, Robin Wall Kimmerer. This is an essay, and it offers different point of view on how the world could work. 3 stars. 72. Devil's Honey by Isaku Natsume. This is a BL manga. I used to love this one back in the day, and when now I have my own money, I bought an ebook copy. This is a romance between a student and a teacher. It's pretty simple, but it works. I'm gonna give it 4 stars, but some of it is probably nostalgia. But I don't know, I reread it and I really liked it. And I can actually own it. I own it in PDF. I'm so happy. Number 73, Ginger Honey by Isaku Natsume. And this is like a second volume. I gave this one 4 stars, but in my notes I said I liked the first installment better. This is about the younger brother of the student from The Devil's Honey and his best friend falling in love. It wasn't his book, but Yoshimoto, which is the Devil's Honey protagonist, was there a lot, and the book relies heavily on miscommunication. It still has its sweet moments though. September, and with it number 74, Tongue-Tied by Christina Lee. Back to Franklin U we go. I remember liking 2 Christina Lee books a long time ago. This one was fine. It is a college romance about 2 best friends, and the author handled it better than I expected. I hate when 2 characters pine for one another for years without doing anything about it, and this wasn't like that. The MCs didn't have that much going on though. 3 stars. 75. The Battles of Tolkien by David Day. I won't repeat myself, or maybe I will. What I said applies. With this one, I wished for a bit more context for the battles, especially when talking about Silmarillion. I hoped I would understand the chain of events better, but I didn't. 3 stars. 76. Method Acting by Anne R. Walker. I was soldiering on with the Franklin U books, but I wasn't happy about it. And I keep on saying nobody's making me read these, but it's not true. I am making me read these, and I kind of hate myself for it. But yeah, about the book. Back to the college we go, this time to follow 2 actors who are supposed to play a couple. What starts as method acting turns into romance. I was annoyed with the amount of times method acting was mentioned and how the characters were always draped over each other. A bit repetitive. 3 stars. 77. Raven and Other Poems by Edgar Allan Poe. Change of pace. We have a classic. I am torn about poems because there are some I genuinely like. There is something about the Raven, alright, However, as with every collection, there are also poems I read and I forget the next second. I am probably not the right person to enjoy poetry, but I keep on trying and I won't stop. 3 stars. Number 78. And if you are tired of me complaining, you're about to get a lot more tired. Twincerely Yours by Erin Finley. I looked up pronunciation, I didn't find anything. This book is kind of the reason for the whole Franklin U debacle I have going on this year. A few years ago, I discovered Erin Finley and Saxon James and their co-written series See You Hockey. I absolutely loved those books, and I still sometimes go back for a reread. The authors continued their universe with more books, and because I am a completionist, I wanted to read all of it. The books lately don't bring me much joy anymore though. And this book also didn't. There were so many things that were annoying, and the book still managed to kind of bore me. It is a romance between a twin and the professor of his brother. There are just a few issues I had with it. First, the twins are codependent. They admit it and they act like it's okay. The main pair is together for like a minute and they are both willing to risk their careers and compromise their integrity for each other. Like, why? Is there even something they have in common other than sex? Who knows? Not me. The book freely admits a lot of the issues and forces it down your throat repeatedly without actually fixing any of it. I have been dreading this book for a year, and it wasn't as bad as I thought, which kind of makes it worse, because it's not even funny bad, it's just whatever. 2 stars. Number 79, Giant's Bread by Mary Westmacott. Are you ready for Agatha Christie with a twist? People don't get murdered in these, which is a whiplash. The main character of this would benefit from getting murdered, I believe. This is a drama, alright. I was enchanted by a lot of the characters and their inner workings. Do not get me wrong, they were quite annoying, but in a matter consistent with their character build-up and circumstances. Some of the events in this book are so dramatic and borderline insane, but they serve the purpose of the story so well. I was pleasantly surprised, and I have to admit this was almost 5 stars. We ended with 4 because our main man Vernon is so annoying, but I had a great time. Number 80, The Way of the House Husband by Kosuke Ono. This is a manga following an ex-yakuza, which is a Japanese gang, I think, who turns into a homemaker. It is episodic and quite funny, and this volume hit just right to receive 5 stars. If you wish for something on the lighter side, this series is a good place to go. 81, Rival by Eden Finley. Another contemporary M/M. I was following this list of books in the Eden and Saxon book universe, and this was next. The main focus is a rivalry between 2 aspiring sport agents. It wasn't bad, but it was just too short to get attached to anyone. 3 stars. 82. The Dark Powers of Tolkien by David Day. Another book about Tolkien without Tolkien's charm. Once again, beautiful illustrations are unable to carry this repetitive and a bit boring information over to 4 stars. We'll keep the 3 stars we know we can pull off. Let's get ready for October. Number 83, Garlic and the Vampire by Brie Paulson. Don't mind me gushing about the sweetest and the cutest graphic novel I have ever read. We have this witch who employs these little vegetable people, including Garlic. One day, a vampire moves into a castle nearby and Garlic is sent to investigate. As I already mentioned, this is super cute and you should read it. 5 stars. Number 84, Garlic and the Witch by Brie Paulson. I'm not going to talk about the plot of this, but our friend Garlic goes on another adventure. I wish all graphic novels were like this. I always find it hard to connect to protagonists from graphic novels because you do not spend as much time with them as you do with protagonists of novels. But this is so cute and simple, yet so charming and heartwarming. I loved it. 5 stars. Number 85 and 86 is The Mysterious Mr. Quinn by Agatha Christie and The Love Detectives, which is a Harley Quinn short story also by Agatha Christie. And, well, this is a bit different anthology, because Mr. Quinn is some sort of otherworldly mysterious figure. However, the mysteries aren't always supernatural in nature, and sometimes they are mysterious but not quite detective stories. Some stories I really liked and some were whatever. That is basically never a short story collection I would love every single story in. My favorite by far was The Voice in the Dark. Its resolution is simply diabolical. Mr. Satterwhite is not a bad detective, but he is no Marple or Poirot. Mr. Quinn is not much of a detective at all. He is simply lurking around being mysterious. I will need a high-quality Poirot or Marple next. The Love Detectives short is there because it wasn't in my short story collection, even though my Agatha Christie reading tracker said it should be. So I have to read it on its own, and now it counts as a book. 87. Death in the Spires by K.J. Charles. Historical fiction, murder mystery, M/M, K.J. Charles, sign me up. This reminded me a bit of When We Were Liars, but it's less dark academia and more historical mystery. We have a set of characters and everybody is suspicious of murdering a person who was the leader of the group and supposedly very nice. As these stories tend to go, we soon realize the person was vile and whoever murdered them had a good reason. This could have been 5 stars, but I sort of guessed the one evil person in this. I missed the other important parts of the reveal though. Overall, we got a solid set of characters and solid collection of motives. I love darker stories that aren't that dark, and this was it. After all, all's well that ends well. 4 stars. And one theme I like in this, and Agatha Christie does it a lot, it's the victims of the crime that is unsolved. Like all the people who didn't do it, but are still suspicious because it wasn't solved. It's such an interesting concept, and here it's done so well. Number 88, Murder at the Vicarage by Agatha Christie. So, back to my Agatha Christie reading tracker. I already read a lot of Agatha Christie books. I would say I managed to get through about half of them. I got the tracker in September though, and I decided I won't put the books I read a long time ago in without rereading them. This is where the first Miss Marple novel comes into play. Well, to the mystery. We have a murdered colonel and a parson that carelessly said whoever murders that man would do the world a favor. This is a solid start to Miss Marple, but I feel like it's still finding its footing. People don't underestimate Miss Marple as horribly as I'm used to, though they are trying. The mystery was also a bit complicated for me, and the reveal was a bit like, well, so that's cool. I like simple solutions, and there was a lot going on with broken clocks, alibis, notes with dates, etc. Also, Raymond West, nephew of Marple, wasn't as annoying as he usually is. And the person, and his wife probably should have one more conversation about a certain issue. They were an odd pair. I'm glad I read this one, but this is not the Christie I will revisit again. Number 89, Taste My Life Through Food by Stanley Tucci. This was a memoir filled with food as promised. I just wish there were some photos because I wasn't quite able to imagine a lot of the dishes. Overall, pretty solid 3 stars. Number 90, An Atlas of Tolkien by David Day. The last one. Nobody is forcing me to read this but me, yet here I am complaining. These books are okay. They are easy and quick reads for someone who loves the Tolkien universe. The entire series, however, struggles with repetition, weird translations, maybe the original uses weird phrases, I don't know, and occasional mistakes which have no place in a professionally edited book. I cannot give it more than 3 stars, and I don't want to. It's lucky enough to get free. 91. Get a Real Chloe Torres by Crystal Maldonado. We have Chloe, our main character, who gets free tickets to her favorite band from her early teenage years. She takes it as a sign to try and rekindle the relationship with her former best friends by taking them on a road trip. The book was cute, sweet, and fun, but it is not exactly for me. I usually stay away from YA, and there is a reason for that. Some deeper character complexity was missing for me. 3 stars. 92. West with Giraffes by Linda Rutledge. Historical fiction, and not the Bodies Ripper kind, which is rare for me. The premise of a road trip with 2 giraffes across the entire USA in the 1938 sounds awesome, and don't get me wrong, it had its moments, but I wasn't quite feeling the main guy and his love interest or whatever she was. And what was that ending? 3 stars. November, and with that, number 93, Kiona Yubisaki, Bukio no Tsumasaki by Yaya Sakuragi. It's in Japanese, and I don't know how to pronounce it. I tried my best. This is a high school romance that starts with one guy painting the nails of his classmate while he is asleep. They develop a friendship which later blossoms into a relationship. This is one of my favorite yaoi manga. The premise with nail painting is unique. The relationship is slow drama but really sweet and cute. The translation feels a bit unnatural at times, but there is no official one, so I gotta make do. 5 stars. Number 94, Fred Wars Presidential Chaos Bonus Scene by Saxon James. I know I've been quite mean to Saxon and Eden universe, the Saddenverse, if you will. What you should know is that there are still books I truly love, and Fred Wars Presidential Chaos is one of them. The book starts with the 2 characters already having this friends with benefits arrangement, and this chapter shows how that came to be. 4 stars. 95, A Harrowing Christmas by Saxon James. Another bonus scene. I was nice to the previous one, and now I have to be mean again. I just hate alluding to or flat out talking about intimate stuff in front of family, and this bonus scene has little else. 2 stars. Number 96. What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This is a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher, and it is the right amount of creepy that is bearable even for people like me who are not really into horror. Our main hero was actually quite down to earth and funny, so I wasn't afraid, and that's what I like about this book. This author writes so well, and I always know I'm in for a good time with them. 4 stars. 97 and 98. Sword and Mist, Volume 1 and 2 by Hayate Kuku. 5 stars. This is how you do yaoi manga. Both MCs are assassins for hire, and they meet during one mission where they share a target. One of them is going for it with a sword, while the other is playing a long game, dressing up as a concubine and utilizing poison. The author managed to give both MCs distinct personalities in quite short format. Also, the way this is drawn is fantastic. Number 99, So Worthy My Love by Kathleen E. Wood Davis. So, this is the first book by Kathleen E. Woodivis I read, and it's the start of my body cerebral exploration journey because I bought every single one of this author's book, and this is the first one I read. I already owned it, and I think I already read it at least 2 times, so it wasn't completely new to me. There is this Marquez guy, and he's considered a traitor to Queen Elizabeth I. He wants to kidnap his ex-fiancée on the day of her wedding, and I guess get married to her. He has these 2 goons that mess that up, so he ends up with her cousin in his hiding place in Germany. The 2 of them hate each other's guts until they fell in love. And they later managed to withstand a ridiculous number of murder attempts by different people, both in Germany and in England. And they prove his innocence and have a kid. Spoilers, I guess, but these always end well. 3 stars, because the switch from hate to love felt a bit sudden and undeserved. Number 100. The Half-White Album by Cynthia J. Sylvester. Goodreads says this is a collection that combines fiction, poetry, and non-fiction. I'm not really a fan of ambiguity, and this book seemed to me like ambiguity personified. Some stories interested me more than others, but I didn't like how some characters were reoccurring. Is this all one big universe and I'm just not seeing all the connections, or am I completely wrong? I don't know. 3 stars. 101. Homes of Kyoto 7 by Mai Mochizuki. These are consistently very good. The mysteries are unique, and the will they, won't they between the main characters got me invested. I do distinctly remember some of the episodic mysteries in this one being really dark. 4 stars. 102. The New Annotated Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. This was not my first time reading The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but it was the first time I fell in love with it. My notes say this. The beginning of this has subtle humor I vibed with. Utterson being boring or him being miffed about a will that makes no sense, I can relate. Then the atmosphere shifts, and even though I know the ending, like who doesn't, I was there for the why and how. I was not disappointed. Stevenson crafted a compelling story where the horror isn't so much on the outside as it is within. 5 stars. Number 103. Battles on the Water by Kathleen E. Woodivis. Deeper into the world of body strippers we dive. This widower buys a convicted woman as a governess for his son. They proceeded to face off against basically the whole world and come out on top. This was so cheesy, but like in a good way. The author likes her guys with slim waist, her women with breasts that have to be mentioned at least every couple of pages, and the villains cartoonishly evil to the point of being ridiculous and later to the point of being dead. This book has 2 modes. Either one of the main characters is in danger of dying or horny as hell. The book gets bonus points because the characters weren't unnecessarily mean to each other. I mean, every other person was mean to them, but the 2 MCs weren't that mean to each other. It's not always the case. So, 3 stars, I had good time. 104. Shanna by Kathleen E. Woodivis. Another body stripper, we are on a roll. We start with Shanna, who is trying to marry a guy that is supposed to be hanged in a few days to get out of her father's ultimatum. She does so, and starts a chain of events that she could not have expected in her wildest dreams. Her husband ends up as her father's slave on a tropical island. He proceeds to walk around shirtless and demands to get one night with Shanna. She promised in exchange for the marriage and didn't follow through. What follows is a mayhem that includes slavery, illicit affairs, insults, multiple murder attempts, even from the main girl herself, multiple pregnancies, piracy, and horny men, both good or evil. If you want to know more, I posted a summary that goes more in depth. This was crazy, and more than 3 stars wouldn't be justified. It was entertaining, but I can't say I like the main heroes much. 105. Human Relations, Strategies for Success by Lowell H. Lamberton. Non-fiction, it was pretty okay, but it felt like a school book. How am I supposed to work in a group as one person? But yeah, the information is pretty solid. 3 stars. 106. The Unlikely Heir by Jack Calder. Time for some more romance. We have a fish out of water prince falling in love with Prime Minister. Both guys are really nice and they have solid personalities. Their story reads so easily, I often got lost in the book and it didn't even feel like I was reading. It also had a very strong rom-com vibe. 4 stars, cause I wanted a little bit more to push it to 5. 107, The Unlikely Pair by Jake Calder. This series is cozy, yet there is a certain melancholy about this one. We have two men from opposing political factions suddenly in the wilderness and on the run from the terrorists. The whole story is permeated by the idea that the romance between the MCs has to end once everything gets back to normal, and it truly feels impossible to reconcile lives and love when you look at each other from behind enemy lines. I really like that the author is not going for a complete fairy tale as ending of the dilemma solving itself without sacrifices. Strong 4 stars. Well, we're at the home stretch now because it's December. 108. Jane Austen's Bookshelf, a rare book collector's quest to find the women writers who shaped a legend by Rebecca Rumi. What a well-researched non-fiction book. I learned a lot about Austen's predecessors and contemporaries, especially about the difficulty of being a writer and a woman at once. The warning that novels would corrupt young girls' minds sounds laughable, but it had a real impact on what could be written and successfully published. I admit, I was victim to the idea of Austen being basically the first woman author, and this thoroughly disabused me of it. And now I can add some great names to my ever-growing TBR. Win-win for everybody. 4 stars. 109. The Unlikely Pair by Jake Calder. M/M romance. The prince who feels trapped by his responsibilities but hides himself behind charm and humor, an undercover agent who is trying to find traitors among the Royal Protection Service. What an unlikely pair. You see what I did there? Our agent can't seem to hide his disdain for our prince and the concept of royalty in general. The prince can't stop trying to rile his bodyguard by being a menace. While touring Australia and New Zealand, the two grow surprisingly close when they manage to sneak peeks behind each other's masks. And then Mission Impossible commences. It felt like I was watching an action movie with romantic subplot, and I really liked it. These books were such a relax, even though they aren't completely light. There is certain despair the author manages to convey splendidly. And when you know your happily ever after awaits at the end, the journey through thorny bushes is worth it. 5 stars. 110. Homes of Kyoto 8 by Mai Mochizuki. This was solid, interesting mystery, but the series had better ones. I'm more invested in the relationship drama, honestly. 4 stars. 111. The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. This one is crazy. I love how Christie is basically telling you what you should look for, and yet you keep on looking just to find out you missed. I was pretty sure about one of the plot points. I should have got the murderer, but I failed to make the connection. As always. This time, we have a young girl found strangled in a library of people who didn't know her and who happened to be Miss Marple's friends. We soon learn the girl was about to be adopted by a rich invalid. This man lost his wife and both children in an accident, and his only family left were a son-in-law and daughter-in-law, both previously in the will. However, things aren't as simple as they seem. There is a missing schoolgirl, stolen car, burned body, suspicious guy who works in the movie industry, potential new partners, cousins, dancers, 3 esteemed detectives, and Miss Marple. It was bound to get interesting. 4 stars. 112. The Monsters Murders by Elizabeth R. Anderson. This is a historical fiction murder mystery set in the 14th century. We follow 3 women who brew ale and help solving mysteries in their spare time. This time there are missing novices, strange beasts, mole street sweepers, theft of shoes, and so on and so forth. 3 stars. I wanted a bit more from the final reveal. 113. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I don't think there is any need to introduce the famous Ebenezer Scrooge and the 3 or 4 Christmas ghosts who turn his life around. I got a beautifully illustrated edition for Christmas, and I devoured it in one sitting. 4 stars. I have always been obsessed with the idea of Christmas ghosts, and I finally got to read the story in its original form. And the last book on the list, 114, You Are the Detective, The Creeping Hand Murder by Maureen Johnson. An American author gets murdered in a room of 6 people and none is the wiser. This time the detective is me, or you, I guess. I wasn't the best choice because I didn't solve it. Surprise, surprise. The resolution, however, didn't blow my mind. I was just like, okay. The book is also quite short. It suited me, but there is not that much space to create compelling characters. I like the illustrations though. 3 stars. Hi there! If you made it this far, you're amazing. Thank you very much for listening to my ramblings. And I think some closing thoughts are in order. Well, I was surprised by a few things this year. I realized I read a lot of books I didn't really like. I think I need to work on that. I don't think you need to complete every single series you start, and maybe I should focus more on reading books I actually enjoy. I don't think I need to finish books when I start them because I keep on soldiering on and reading through books I'm really not into. So that could be a New Year's resolution, all right. And yeah, what else? Well, I think it's good time to talk about some books I really did enjoy, some books I could recommend. Well, of course, there's Tolkien. If you didn't read Tolkien and you like fantasy, what are you doing? Are you like me? Are you waiting for the right time? The right time is now. Go and read Tolkien. Well, besides Tolkien, if you are into M/M, give chance to Jack Calder. You don't need to read the series I read. Like, every single book I've read of hers is amazing, so go read some Jack Calder or some Cat Sebastian if you're at it, or KJ Charles. Their books are really great. And if you are into non-fiction, go read The Five about the victims of Jack the Ripper, or read the book about Jane Austen's predecessors and contemporaries. It's really educational and interesting. It's so interesting. And yeah, have a good year, I guess. Happy 2026. I almost forgot. I would like to thank Scott Kramer. He's a YouTuber I watch because he inspired me to make this entire video with his end of the year recap where he talked about creativity and how people in creative fields like to present work as being effortless. But if you really want to make it your job, it's gonna feel like work. And I'm not saying this is my job, it isn't, but it wasn't easy to make this, but I had so much fun with it. And I don't know, if this can inspire you to pursue something creative you maybe are on the fence about, yeah, that would be really awesome. So, yeah, thank you for listening. And there's a chance I will start posting more videos about books on this channel. So, if you enjoyed it, let me know. Goodbye.